Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and we talk with business leaders from all over the world who are here sharing their expertise and wisdom so we can all grow together. I'm your host, Heidi Schalk, co-founder of HLH Growth Solutions, and we help businesses create revenue using outside-the-box visibility and automation strategies. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. We're so glad you're here. You're in for a real treat. I've been having some fun behind the scenes with my guests today, so I know this is going to be a phenomenal conversation. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Matt Campbell with Virtual Midwest Concussion Clinic. So welcome, Matt, to the podcast.
Perfect. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to dive in. So Matt, kick us off and share a little bit about yourself, about Virtual Midwest Concussion Clinic and your role within it.
Perfect. So like you said, my name is Matt Campbell. I'm the co-founder and owner of the Virtual Midwest Concussion Clinic. We are a 100% virtual-based concussion clinic that focuses on not only the evaluation and rehabilitation of concussions, but specifically on the education and what I like to talk about, making the invisible feel visible. So it's a 100% kind of virtual option. I meet patients where they're at, the comfort of their own home. We sit down and we talk. Because my opinion when it comes to brain injuries is you don't start recovering until you understand what's going on. It doesn't matter how good somebody's rehab plan is or how much science is backed behind what you do. If the person doesn't understand what's happening, why it's happening, you're pushing against a wall that's not going to give. So I kind of started the business back in 2019, had a medical director, physician by the name of Dr. Tom Lazoff, was a great guy. And he and I both shared the similar thought process. It was right at the front where rehab was starting to become a thing. He had been treating concussions for 34 years. I had been doing it for 5, and we finally got together and went, okay, we need to figure out how to do this. Getting kind of into the whole business side, we hit the ground running in September of 2019. We got about 5 months in before the world shut down. Then when the world shut down, it gave us a chance to step back and go, all right, what are we doing? First of all, he and I didn't know each other before we started. I was working with another company. We had mutual business partners. And I showed up one Friday. I got a phone call. It's like, hey, we want you to be here at 9 a.m. on Friday for a meeting. I was like, okay, I've been doing that a lot. So I come in and he goes, hey, I hear we're business partners. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, you want to start a concussion clinic, right? I was like, yeah, I do. I really do. And he's like, cool. Our first patient's at 9 o'clock on Monday. I'll see you then. And I went, oh, all right. So he and I hit the ground running, and it was very, very interesting because it was, hey, you know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing. We're going to just do it together now. So we sat down and, saw a bunch of patients from September to March. And then when the world shut down in March, he and I both sat back and went, okay, what are we doing, and is it working? So we sat down and repositioned and kind of reevaluated what was happening. And we were working under a different name at the time. So back at that time, it allowed us to regroup, and we rebranded to the Midwest Concussion Clinic. And we opened the Midwest Concussion Clinic together and ran it together until January of 2025. He's entering the twilight of his career. So he took a less of an ownership role in his private practice and went to work for a big hospital system. The big hospital system, I was part of the agreement to get him to come on, and our agreement stated that I had to be there for 365 days. And after 363 days, they said, you're out. So I moved on. We kind of talked and joked around a little bit at the beginning. I never wanted to be a business owner, so I was grown out of necessity. We switched to the virtual option in January of 2025 and went, I have no idea if virtual is going to work or not. And then 3 months into it, I had full transparency. I expected to be back in person working with a different group and seeing patients physically, and I'll never go back. It's been a great change. I'll never go back.
So from what I'm hearing, well, first, there's a lot that you shared, and thank you for all of that, because you pivoted a number of times, which I think is really something I want to highlight before we move on, because that's gold, a little gold nugget there for those of you who are listening. Pivoting is happening on a regular basis. And if we're not, in my opinion, I pivoted a lot. And and sometimes you're pivoting out of necessity. Sometimes we're pivoting out of confusion. Sometimes we're pivoting because we just feel like we're not getting the traction we want. And there's different ways and reasons to pivot, right? And there's good reasons and not so good reasons. And you pivoted because it was something that fell in your lap. Also something that came out of, okay, you didn't have a choice, right? Over and necessity. And then the gap, it's important that we're understanding where the gap is that we're filling. And normally I would ask, what was the gap? But it sounds like you didn't really realize there was a gap. You kind of just hit the nail on the head, and the gap was like, yes, thank you for filling it.
Yeah. A little bit of both, in the concussion management world, most people's understanding of concussions comes from sports. So every major hospital system, every big concussion clinic had a focus on sports, and I was no different. I came from a sports medicine background, so I went into the sports world, and I came back out of the sports world and went, okay, we're going to focus on athletes. So that first year and a half, it was all athletes all day, every day, and then my physicians at the time saw work comp, so I saw a fair amount of adult head injuries, and the gap was, nobody treats adults when it comes to concussions, especially in our area. In our area, we have some pretty good concussion clinics that we were direct competitors to, but they only saw 12 to 22-year-olds. So when I sit down and went, okay, well, if you're seeing a 12 to 22-year-old athlete, but you're not seeing the car accident, you're not seeing the domestic violence or the fall that happened at work, where are they going? So that was my gap that I pivoted to. I still see my middle school, high school, college age athletes, but predominantly the average age of my clinic went from 16 and a half years old to 34.
Wow.
Because nobody treats the adults, because they're harder. They're not as quick turn and burn as the kids are.
So that was my next question, was going to be, for someone who's unfamiliar with concussion treatment, what does your treatment do differently compared to traditional neurologists or physical therapy clinics? Is it that you see different patients, or is it there's also more?
A little bit of both, right? So the primary thing that I like to talk about is a little bit what we touched, is the patient doesn't understand what's going on until, for the majority of it, right? You're in the healthcare world, when it comes to concussions, they're not severe enough to hit on most neurology's radar, because revenue and reimbursement through insurance companies isn't as high as like a dementia, an Alzheimer's, a stroke, something along those lines. So when we start looking at where we differ, is we will see concussions, first of all. In our area, primary care, urgent cares, they don't want concussions. The biggest difference is old school treatment approach for concussions is we used to just put you in a dark room and say good luck. Even neurology, to an extent, is the phrase diagnose and adios. Hey, you have a concussion, we'll try a medication, or let's just see how you progress over the course of the next 6 weeks. I'll see you again in 6 weeks. I don't know how it is down in Florida, but here in our area, it's a 4 to 5 month wait for a neurology appointment to begin with.
That's scary.
If I go to, I go to my primary care for a concussion, they're like, well, we want to send you to neurology. Right now, if I can get you in before July, I'm shocked. Just because we're not in a hotbed area. We have, 2 hours south of us is Indianapolis, but we're not a big neurology area. So you're telling somebody who doesn't understand what's going on, has been told by the emergency room that you're alive, get out, but they can't put 2 sentences together. They can't see straight. They're dizzy, they're nauseous, and they're told to just, well, you'll get better in a couple of days. That's not what happens anymore. So we focus on a multi-system treatment approach. I focus on working on vision therapy, vestibular therapy, working on head body movement. I do a little bit of cognitive therapy. So I do a little bit with memory and thought processing and retaining information. And then the biggest way that I differ from like a traditional physical therapy clinic is I will spend a significant amount of time on lifestyle modifications. People will talk to you about, hey, let's take a couple of days off of work, or let's lay low, but nothing prepares you for the concept that life doesn't stop after a concussion. So how do you navigate a day-to-day routine where I can no longer take time off of work and I need to figure out how to do it? So that's kind of where the biggest differentiator is we'll spend time talking about how to do it, not just telling you what to do.
Yeah. And I love that you're virtual because it makes the
Hmm.
accessibility to you, because you just mentioned there's big challenges as far as
Yeah.
getting to be seen. And you're able to, I don't know if you're able to do the scanning that they need, but at least they are able to access you and get their
Yeah.
questions answered. You're not just sending
Yeah.
them off. And which can't even imagine how scared these people are knowing
A
that this is
lot. Yeah.
happening and they're sent home.
Right. A lot of it is people need answers, right?
Right.
Our initial evaluation, it's an hour to an hour and a half long, and we spend a majority of that time talking. I start every appointment with, this is not me telling you what's going to happen. This is two adults having a conversation. If I'm explaining something to you that you don't understand, I want you to tell me that you don't understand. If I'm explaining something to you and you have a question, interrupt me. This is not me telling you how you're supposed to feel. This is, if you don't have the answer to the question or you don't have an explanation on why you can carry on a complex machine learning conversation, but you can't answer basic what did you do for dinner last night questions, that's scary. You know,
Yeah.
when there's physical things going on, like we get a headache, we get dizzy, yeah, we kind of understand what's happening. But if I go to church and get so disoriented and I can't stand up straight anymore and everybody's trying to figure out what's going on and I can't tell them what's going on, that's terrifying to somebody. So
Yeah.
that's why we spend a lot of time on the education side.
Yeah, and I think it's fantastic. We're going to get into the business growth and things, but I think it's fantastic that you preface that when you're leading the conversation when you first meet someone, because they're already coming in nervous. And I'm sure being virtual is maybe something
Yep.
that some of these people haven't experienced as far as
Yeah.
seeing someone. So this is new to them. And you're like,
Yep.
this is awesome. We're just going to have a conversation. And please, like, this is your platform to advocate for yourself. And that not a lot of doctors are promoting
Correct.
advocacy. I spoke with somebody recently and they do, and it's rare that I hear doctors promoting for advocacy. And I think that's very, very important because some, physicians out there, and I think it's shifting. I think they're
Hmm.
starting to see, like, I need to be more empathetic. I need to
Yeah.
show more compassion and I need to listen. I need,
Hmm.
my patients need to be seen and heard, need to feel seen and heard. So I think that the medical space is shifting, but there are still some doctors out there that are just like, this is what you have, this is what's going on, good luck to you, or this is
Yeah.
the prescribed medicine, here you go.
Right.
I Good example is I went to the doctor recently for something I was diagnosed with in December and going through treatment, and he was wonderful, and he
Hmm.
is busy. I know he was
Yeah.
busy, and he's,
Yep.
because there was just, every room was full, but he worked late and spent time with everybody, and he literally said, do you have questions? And in my case,
Yeah.
it's rare, so he even said, I may not have the answers, but I will
Right.
help you find them, because what you have is rare. So I
Exactly.
love that. Mean a lot to me that you said that, because just
Yeah.
being in that office, listening to, being with a doctor, being nervous myself, I know how it feels when somebody's not doing that for you. So thank
Right.
you for being that
Yeah.
person for your patients. I know it
Right.
goes a long way. I just wanted
Yeah.
to share that with you in case you don't hear it
I
enough.
really, no, I really appreciate that because in my opinion, the medical model's broken, right? We spend too much time focusing on revenue generation, right?
Mm.
That in my opinion, the big picture of healthcare is not to get people necessarily healthy faster. It's to play to the insurance companies. It's to play to the revenue generation, the hospital systems being bought by VCs and big equity firms. Like that's a problem. Healthcare is not necessarily designed to be a profitable business. It's designed to keep people healthy. Well, we've lost sight of that to an extent. It's it's the reimbursement rates, and that's kind of why my clinic is built the way it is. I don't accept insurance because if I've got somebody that needs an hour and a half appointment, I don't want to have to worry about, well, I can only bill you for an hour. If I only saw you for 7 minutes, I can bill you, but if I see you for 8 minutes, I can't bill you again until 16. Everything for me is a flat rate. It is when you come in, I block out a chunk of time, and we're going to make sure that you have the questions that you need that are answered.
Mm.
My clinic is built on two things, and it's expertise and access. All I do all day, every day is concussions. And if you have a question, the business phone goes with me everywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's easier for me to handle things in real time. So if I have somebody who's so dizzy they can't see straight at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I want them to send me a message because I can get that to calm down. If I see you a week later, it's like, hey, how you been for the last week? And the answer is awful. I need to know why. And then we have to retrace the last 7 days, and that's a lot.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
um, one of my philosophies in business is I treat people, not numbers. Everybody coming in has a story, and everybody coming in deserves to be heard, right? You're like with your condition, you're the expert in your condition, right? You may not have all the answers to the diagnosis, but you know exactly how you feel every single day.
Yeah.
I have no idea how any of my patients feel. I can tell you scientifically what you might go through. I can tell you based on experience what you might expect, but I don't know how they feel. So when I had to sit down and have that initial conversation, I am trying to learn as much about what they're going through as possible, because everybody's going to be different. In the brain injury world, once you see one concussion, you see one concussion. It doesn't matter if you see the same person over and over and over again, years apart. The brain is at a completely different chemical makeup. So I can't take what worked for patient A and put it on patient B. There might be some overlaps and similarities, but they may not respond completely the same. So now I have to modify it to fit that treatment plan is specific for patient A, where this treatment plan is specific for patient B. And that's really hard for people to understand when they're first starting in the brain injury world. Because physical therapy clinics, they are designed to, we're going to do the highest revenue generating treatments, we're going to turn and burn. And if I've got a philosophy or I've got a treatment program, the protocol that works, I want to implement that over and over and over again. Well, Johnny at 16 years old may not need the same treatment plan that Sally at 62 does.
Right.
If I'm telling Johnny to stand on one foot and juggle a soccer ball, that's great. If I'm telling 62-year-old Sally to stand on one foot and juggle a soccer ball, it's not going to work. So yeah, it's an interesting philosophy. You mentioned the virtual side. The virtual side is a very interesting thing because in the Midwest, my computers, I can't trust my computers. I want to drive somewhere to sit in an office. And I'm sitting here saying, all right, well, in concussion management, I don't want you to drive. But my net before we went virtual was 2.5 hours every direction. So, hey, don't drive except the 2.5 hours in. I'll make you dizzy and then send you 2.5 hours home and say good luck. I mean, it contradicted our treatment philosophies. And so that's why I tried the virtual side.
Yeah. And it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense. And now we're seeing so much more with telemed. So it just makes everybody's life easier. But now that you put it in that perspective, it makes complete sense why your patients should be going virtual and not driving to a doctor in order to get checked out and then driving home. Like that's not really the safest way to do things. So let's talk about building a little bit. When building a specialized clinic like yours, what has been the biggest challenge in growing it? Was it patient awareness, referrals, insurance, or you don't take insurance, or was it something else?
So the hardest thing that we had to go through initially is rehab was just becoming a concept for brain injuries, right? The old school treatment approach is we just told everybody to go sit in a dark room and you get better, right? We'd throw a low dose antidepressant at you and say, all right, you'll get better in 2 weeks. And then if you're not better in 2 weeks, come back and see me and then we'll try a different medication, we'll adjust it and then give you 2 more weeks. So the initial challenge was, why would I do rehab for this? Because the medical model was do no harm. Well, sitting in a dark room, it's really hard to do harm. So you just sit in a dark room. Well, the research evolved and we were at that point where it was like, okay, we're starting to realize that if we do rehab early, people will get better. So the biggest challenge on the initial side was, why would you do that? The second major challenge that we ran into was when we first started was insurance. Insurance, for whatever reason, when we wanted to do rehab, for concussions, they would quote old research that says, well, concussions can't be, they can't linger for longer than 7 to 10 days. Even though that's been proven time and time and time and time again, they would quote old statistics. So I would request 8 visits over the course of 4 weeks. And no, you can't, you got 1. Okay, great. We'll do as much as we can in that 1. So we ran into a significant education side that was hard. And it's hard to market the education side because I went to the emergency room and they told me it was no problem. Like, I'll get better in a couple of days. The emergency room is exactly what they're designed to do. You're alive, you're stable, get out. Well, most people don't understand that get out comes with a follow up with somebody else who can help you recover. They just hear your scans are normal, your CT scans are negative, you'll be better in a couple of days. And if not, come see somebody. Well, who do I see? Where do I go? So the education side has and will always be a difficult side because I'm very self-aware. Nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, you know what? I want to know everything about concussions. I want to know, like, oh, I can't wait to watch this commercial on concussion rehab. Nobody cares about a concussion until something happens.
Right.
And then when something happens, you got to be able to find the place that takes care of it. And that's the challenge with any small business is how do I find you? Right? Because there's no, I am the treating clinician, I am the education department, I am the billing department, I am the scheduling department. Like I am all of those. So when it comes to marketing, it's like, well, how do you get to where people can see you? And
Right.
that's always the challenge because I can throw thousands of dollars at advertisements all day, every day. But if it doesn't hit the people when they need it, it doesn't matter because nobody's going to remember that, oh, 6 months ago when I mental and struggling with mental fogginess and memory problems, 6 months ago, some random guy on Twitter or TikTok was talking to me about brain injuries. I need to find that person. It doesn't work that way.
So is it mainly, so what are you doing to get out there visibly? I know you're here on the podcast. You've done multiple podcasts. Is it just a matter of consistently putting yourself out there so you're in front of that person when the moment happens?
That's a big one. We talked a little bit around early that I didn't want to be a business owner.
Yeah.
So when I started looking at how to do this, I followed a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk early on in business and still absolutely love messaging and kind of what he stands for. So when I started to put it together, my whole concept is I'm gonna give out as much free information as I can. I host a monthly webinar that I'll come on and talk about a topic that's been consistent with patients. I pop in and do TikTok lives every so often, answering a question that's been in the office or something that I've seen on, Facebook support groups or different things. I will tell everybody that with my social media, you could treat a concussion yourself. You just have to figure out how to put the pieces together because all of the information's there, right? Especially from the rehab side. The way I treat my information is twofold with my patients. If they ask a question, there are hundreds of people out there with the exact same question that don't have somebody they can ask or don't know who to ask. So I will put it out there on social media. And the second one is if I'm working with a patient and they're struggling to see progress, they're struggling to see consistency. If I have a conversation with them one-on-one and then I go put it out on the internet for the world to see it, there's a pretty good chance that I stand behind what I said, right? Because if I tell them one thing and then go put something else out on the internet that's different, now I lose credibility. Yeah. So it's a reassurance of like, oh, well, he told me that earlier today and now he told that person that also. And now there's 3 other people that saw that. So it's a consistency in message. And that's where, how I focus on spreading awareness is the number one thing I have is word of mouth marketing. I worked with Johnny's dad. So when he was at work and somebody else got a concussion, he told him that, all right, cool, you saw Matt. That's what we need to do. I've had repeat patients throughout the years. I've got a couple that are starting now where we're treating the youngest daughter for an acute concussion, but the oldest daughter has a complex injury history that we're also going to evaluate to see what we can do because everybody else has kind of written it off. Yeah. So, it all boils back to treating people and not numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. So with you being virtual, I know you have a lot of local patients. Is it all local, or since you're virtual, are you treating people nationwide, international?
Yeah. So a majority of patients are local inside the state of Indiana. So to do the rehab aspect of things, licensure, I'm in the state of Indiana.
Okay.
Outside of the state of Indiana, we focus primarily on the education. We'll bring them in. We call them concussion consultations. I'll bring them in. I'll answer any questions that they have. We won't do rehab. We don't necessarily do an evaluation. We'll talk about limitations. We'll do some basic things to look at eye movement, but we're not going through the full thorough evaluation. And we're giving them all of the resources and tools that they need to either figure it out on their own, because I've got guided workbooks and I've got different things that they can do to learn what their limitations are, learn where they're at in their recovery. Or I will help them in their area find providers that they need, because that's half the battle is
Right.
who do I go to? Who do I see or where do I start? So if you've got somebody that's out of town, if I've got somebody who's, in Ohio, over in Michigan, I had a patient from Ecuador a couple months ago. Like, it was, where do I go and what do I start with? It's like, okay, well, here I found, just a basic Google search. I found these 3 providers in your area that take patients that, can start there. And then we can help you connect the dots and that whole model of concierge healthcare that's starting to take off in the
Yeah,
in
it's
the in the
becoming a big
bigger
thing.
cities and the bigger states. That's kind of what I offer for those that are outside of my small state, of Indiana.
Yeah. Amazing. So I'd like to talk a little bit about AI because
Mhm.
we talked about you mentioned revenue. We're gonna get
Yep.
there too, where a lot of practices are focused on revenue, which we have to be.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
for sure.
it's part of the keeping the doors open is revenue matters.
Yep.
And there's ways to do it where you're still the person coming to you, whether it's a customer, a patient, whatever it looks like, still feel seen and heard. And
Correct.
there's new tools out there that are
Yep.
allowing us and freeing up our time in order to make that more feasible,
Yeah.
more probable, and more available. So with AI starting to transform healthcare, I've talked to a lot of people in healthcare. Some of them are just dipping their toe in the water. Some of them are a little more, dove in a little more in different areas. Are there ways you see health AI helping with concussion diagnosis, treatment planning, or patient monitoring now or coming up in the near future?
Yeah. So it's with anything, AI is going to make things easier, right?
Yeah.
The challenge in healthcare is you're going to run into, you can't let AI work autonomously. So anything that you're going to use AI for needs to be fact checked, needs to be clinician decision making. But I'm also on the side of it can make life easier, right? So I use AI in a number of different ways. We've talked about I'm the one man band, so I'm the scheduling department, the billing department. So I do automate scheduling, right? Scheduling is done. Yeah, people can still call me, but on my voicemail, literally it talks about how to schedule an appointment or how to ask questions. Because when I'm working with a patient, I will not answer the phone. Like, my phone's ringing right now. I will not answer it while I am working with somebody. Using the AI to help me with my administrative tasks has been huge. The note taking side of things, they're starting to look at what HIPAA looks like with scribing and with note taking while you're working in the healthcare field. That it's starting to change and evolve. I think once we can figure out how to make that HIPAA compliant, 100, like no loopholes, nothing through it, that it's going to be key in automating and helping kind of free up the healthcare world. Because you talk to anybody in healthcare, the number one limiting factor is documentation. It's the one thing everybody hates, and it's the one thing that you talk about physician burnout, you talk about clinician burnout. Like, that's the one thing that people will go back to is working hours, and it's not patient hours. For the most part, there are some, but I do think that AI in the big picture in healthcare is going to, with the proper guidelines, is going to be really, really beneficial.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about any possible revenue leakage. So
Yeah.
we talked about revenue. Many healthcare practices lose revenue through things like missed calls, like you just talked about. Your phone
Hmm.
rings, no, either staff is at lunch or they're
Yep.
busy,
Yep.
or and it goes to voicemail. Inefficient intake processes or patients possibly even dropping out mid-treatment. Where do you see the biggest revenue leaks or missed opportunities in concussion care today?
I think right now in concussion care in particular is if you don't have the right person available to answer the question,
Mm.
right? What makes you different? Why should I go there? Again, the people that are generally looking for concussion treatment are limited bandwidth. So I have a set amount of time that I can do this activity. I have a set amount of manpower or brain power that I can offer this search. So if the question's not answered in the first couple minutes, I'm going to move on, or I don't have it anymore. And now the one time I tried to ask for help, I couldn't find it. So now this is me forever. So in particular, I think in the big picture with concussion management is the biggest revenue leak is not being able to answer why you matter or why yours is better than somebody else. And it's something that I struggle with too. I won't pretend to tell you that I'm 100% conversion rate, that I get somebody to click on my website and schedule right away. If I can get them on the phone, it's about a 60% conversion. I have some other limiting factors. People don't like paying cash for things. They don't understand that in the big picture, I'll break it down that you'll pay me a fraction of what you'll end up paying the insurance company. Because being cash rate, I can cut my prices and keep costs lower to keep the lights on. But that ability to relay the message on why it matters and why you are better than another option, that might be a little bit easier, right? I work in an area of Indiana that's got really 2.5 major hospital systems. One of them is massive. The second one is kind of on the slower end and rolling down, and then the third one is just getting into the area. So you're starting to look at, well, you don't have that logo behind you, or you don't have that brand behind you. No, and that's exactly why I can keep it as I'm treating people and not numbers. Mm-hmm. So I think the biggest leak is that inability to answer a question when the question comes up. Mm-hmm. And that's where AI is really beneficial. I have chat bots. My voicemail has your AI agents that answer questions. It's like, oh, you want to schedule? Well, here you can schedule on this line, instead of you and I playing back and forth of like, well, what's Tuesday at 2:00 look like? What's Monday at 1:00 look like? Here's a link to the schedule. It gives you every available appointment I have for the next 6 months. You pick a time, let's make it happen, and we'll block it out. So
amazing. Yeah, amazing. So what are the big goals for you for over the next 12 months?
Over the next 12 months, my running joke for everything is keep the doors open, right? I am one of those type of people that, I don't want to say I'm superstitious, but I'm definitely a little stitious. And everybody's like, how's it going? It's going okay. It's going okay. Is it going great? Some days. Yeah, some days it's going real good. Other days it's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So when we sit down, we look at it, that my number one goal will always be to keep the lights on. I hope to hire my first employee. I really want my wife to help me with the administrative side. That at one point will be like one of the peak milestones, is employee number one comes on and she'll be able to handle my scheduling and answer questions and different things. But, my whole goal in life is to help people, right? When we start looking at philosophies in life and like why I'm put on earth, it's to help people. The concussion clinic is my boat, right? It's my ability to help people. But my whole goal in concussions is to wake up one morning and there be a pill or a supplement or a treatment that you can do that immediately heals somebody from an injury, and I'm out of a job. And I have to sit here and say, hey guys, my time has come. Good luck. If you need me, you know where to find me. And shut the doors. Like, that's my whole goal in life, is to be able to offer the ability for people to be better. Right? Not just necessarily healthy. I grew up on the phrase with sports that was more than winning. And I had trait and take that into everything that I do, because on the court, winning was fine, but I don't play a sport anymore. And I'm still find out that, the lessons that I learned off of the court are more important than what I learned on. Mm-hmm. And the same thing happens with brain injuries. We're more than rehab. We're more than healing. I want everybody to be in a better place than they were when they showed up.
Yeah. Amazing. So if I handed you a magic wand, Matt, and you can wave it over one challenge or issue you're having right now and go poof, and it disappears, yep, what would it be and why?
Understanding. I wish everybody knew concussions were a lot more complex than they think. The general population, their idea of concussion understanding comes generally from sports. The NFL is a big one because it's the one where the word is thrown around the most. It's the one that had the major lawsuit, and it's the reason we have the research that we have. Somebody gets hurt on Sunday and they play next Sunday. Realistically, that is not what happens. So when I have a 52-year-old teacher who got hit in the back of the head by a table and she's been out of work for 6 months, the employer doesn't understand, the coworker doesn't understand, the husband or wife doesn't understand, the kids don't get it. If I could wave a magic wand, it would be that everybody understood the complexity of neurological injuries and that everybody is going to heal differently. We have no idea what somebody else is going through. That if we just understood that, hey, look, they're going through it, they're doing everything they should, and things will get better when they get better, that would be the biggest blessing that I could give the world. I get asked that question a lot, surprisingly, and everybody's like, well, why wouldn't you just wish for concussions to go away? Because understanding doesn't necessarily just mean understanding the complexities of concussions, just understanding people in general. Like, not everybody is the same as you. Everybody's got their own stuff going on. Just be nice.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So can you share with us how people can connect with you and learn more about
Yep.
Virtual Midwest Concussion Clinic?
Yeah. I'm on all social medias at MW Concussion, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, at Midwest Concussion Clinic. My whole goal and philosophies are expertise and access. I answer every DM. I answer every comment that comes through. If I've got somebody who's got a question about something specifically, I'm not your, I am a, I'm a concussion specialist, but I'm not your concussion specialist. So I'll answer generalizations. I'll answer, the broad questions, because again, if somebody has a question, there are 100 people out there that have the same question that don't know where to ask the question.
Yeah.
So they can reach out on all my social medias. You can email me, Matt at mwconcussion.com, mwconcussion.com on the website, everything that you need. My goal is to be the most accessible person in healthcare.
Amazing. So make sure you guys reach out to Matt. If you're listening to us or
Yeah.
watching us on YouTube right now, thank you. Matt and I say hello. And thank you very much for being here with us.
Yeah, for sure.
Go to mwconcussions.com, correct?
Yeah.
And if you know of anybody that could benefit from hearing Matt and learning more about what he's sharing today, maybe they have a concussion, maybe that of people that are in the athletic space, or something has happened to them if they're older, then please let them know about Matt and what he's up to, and share this episode with them, because he's spent an hour with us today, at least, almost. And we want to give back. So the more that we can share him and his message, he's amazing. We want to get him out there more. And we also want to let these people know who are going through this, that there is support out there. There is help and there are answers, because it can 100%. Be a scary time for them. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, thank you. If you're so inclined to leave a review, we would love 5 stars. That helps the podcast platform push this episode with Matt out to more people and share it, so more people can learn about the concussion support and about Matt. Go check him out. Go follow him on social. We have all of his links and all of his information inside of the show notes. So if you're driving, don't worry, we got you. Matt, before I let you go, is there anything you'd like to share or touch on that I didn't get to ask you or we didn't talk about today?
I think it was great. I really appreciate you having me on. I love doing stuff like this. Again, my whole goal is giving back. So if there's somebody out there that's started their own clinic or looking at, hey, how do I get involved in something like this? Happy to reach out, answer any questions that you might have. My big key takeaway is concussion recovery can be scary and isolating. You don't have to do it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your time. So grateful for you and everything that you shared today. Thank you all for being here and listening to it with us today. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight.